No?
Yeah.
Now I'm at the meeting.
Now you're at the meeting. Good man. Listen, folks, I'm gonna get out of the picture here in a second as well. We have the two Billies on the call, so welcome to everybody else who's going to listen. Thank you to both the lads, to Billy Dodd and to Billy over in the States. Really appreciate it. We've been doing this for the last fortnight, and we've had lots of interest in all the different talks, from the 96 lads to Tony Dorn to Paul Galvin, Davy Fitz. And this is one actually probably I got asked most about, funny enough. So we had the Munnamalain and Buffers Alley team last night. We have the Wexford Town team tonight. So lots of people looking forward to this. Billy, great to see you. You're looking in great shape. And I leave the two of you at it. I'll come in at the end when you've knocked the jokes out of each other.
Yeah. I assume you were talking to me, Micheál, about being in great shape. Thanks very much.
I think I might go with the laptop, Billy.
Yeah, go ahead then. Yeah.
Try it first, and then I can.
Okay, look, we're live now, Billy. So, good evening, everybody. And okay, we're ready to go.
Okay, I got it. I'm going to stay with the phone.
Okay. Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome. And I hope you'll find our conversation this evening entertaining and enlightening. And from my point of view, I never thought that I'd be conducting an interview with my best friend from such a distance away. And hopefully tonight we can explain part of the journey that brought Billy to live and work over 4,500 miles from home. So, how are you now, brother?
All right, hon. Doing all right.
Billy, I know you're a very social creature. So, how are you coping with this lockdown?
Look, I'm social, but I also like my little bit of time on my own. So that's been good. Look, it depends on. I have an attitude that McCauley was to me back when I was growing up. So whatever's in front of you, you face it and tackle it. And it hasn't been a bother. I've actually enjoyed the rest, to be honest with you, because I've been, more than anybody, I've been probably going non-stop for about 10 years as internationally traveling and getting ready for competitions and coming back and not really taking enough time off to recover. We're going straight back into it. And so I've had this, I was looking at this as an opportunity to recover and I've had some surgery on my shoulder, which needed to be done. So it's been a great opportunity to get that done and get myself ready for the Olympics when they come along for next year.
Good. Well, we'll start, I suppose, back many years ago when the two of us became friends. And you grew up in Wolfthone Villas in Wexford Town, and by your own admission, a disadvantaged part of town. So tell me, how old were you before you learned how to use an inside toilet?
27, no.
No, but seriously though, how did the environment you grew up in shape your attitude to sport, and how did it prepare you for life in general and the setbacks and the successes?
I think, like all of us, our parents play a major role in obviously our upbringing and who we are. We end up, I suppose, sometimes when we get a bit older, we end up becoming them. But for me, I grew up in the street, and I think, it seems like every house had 6 or 7 kids. We were 2 up and 2 down, no bathroom, toilet out the back. So there was lots of kids on the street, and inevitably led me into a bit of trouble going out there as a kid, as a young lad, 6 or 7 years of age, and to the stage where my dad, who hadn't really got a boxing background, liked boxing. His father boxed, but he never boxed. I'm purely GAA people, my mother and father. So it took him to go down to the Christian Brothers and ask him would they take me in to the boxing club to try and put some manners on me. So
before he ended up in jail.
That was at 7 years of age, but and that's where I suppose it began, growing up in that street. And I think you and me are familiar with the word dash. So I heard this when I was in New York visiting the Wexford team, that if you come from a dash area, which means a disadvantaged area, and dash to us means deadly, means brilliant. It was an old Wexford slang word. But yeah, I grew up in the dash area, which was, to me as an athlete, was an advantage because we were doing lots of things that we were outdoors playing a lot, jumping, climbing, running away from people, you know, climbing up trees, whatever you were doing up the development. But it was really good grounding for to help you with your athletic career. And I think, you know, I think there's quite a few in that street as well. If we come to talk about Woodstown Villas, there's over 30 odd Irish boxing titles being won in it. In Wexford Town, there's been three senior champions in the history of boxing, and 4 senior champions in the history of boxing, and 3 of them come from Woodstown Villas.
So yourself, Joe Fenlon, and
my nephew
Eddie,
Dean Walsh.
And Dean, yes, right.
Yeah.
And then Eddie Byrne has the connection there, or Eddie Bolger has the connection there as well.
Yeah, his mother lived there for a period of time. So there was that, and then obviously the coach being there. Eddie Byrne was the coach, and he obviously coached all of us at a certain time. So it was an advantage in that respect for me. I was lucky enough, I suppose, at that age as well. We started school in the CBS, and we ended up playing football with you and playing hurling with you, and a group out of us that went on to play for years together. Yeah.
So yeah, we were 8 years of age when we became good friends playing with Sarsfields and the Fina, and I know my parents allowed you into the house straight away. So, and after the first week, they stopped searching you on the way out. So I knew you kind of were okay then. Go back.
That's only because you had nothing to rob.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I didn't want to mention that, but I knew you would. But growing up together, we played on county teams and club teams together. And one of my best memories was when you scored a goal in the Leinster final under 14 in 1977. Seems like, I think we must have been only 6 or 7 that day, were we? We were underage. But that was a great memory that day in Croke Park.
Yeah, it stands for, look at, and people have asked me, you know, what's your greatest memory? Look at, obviously standing at the opening ceremony of the Olympic Games. But winning that Leinster final, even playing in it, was one of the biggest occasions in my life.
Yeah.
And I remember, another way I remember was we ran out the tunnel from the Cusick stand. There wasn't the change rooms on the Cusick stand. And we ran out, and I heard the roar of the crowd, and I thought there was thousands of people. Probably there was about 20 people in the park. It
was that early. It was breakfast time when the match was on.
Yeah. And it was, I thought there was thousands, and just that buzz of running out to Croke Park and getting an opportunity. And then actually probably scored 2 goals in my life, and that was one of them.
Yeah. And you probably mishit it that day.
Yeah. I closed my eyes just trying to swim as hard as I could.
But it was amazing, actually. I was just looking at the picture in the local paper this week, and John O'Connor and Martin Story came on sub that day. John started, and both of them were the only 2 from that group that went on to win All Irelands in '96.
Yeah, it was a really good team, actually. You know, and if you look at, you know, McCauley was on it as well. You know, you had Ted Morrissey. You know, you had John Dodd, Barney Burke. You know, there was it was a great team of players that went on to play for long times for the clubs and played inter-county at different levels all the way through. You know, it was a phenomenal team. You know, another good thing, I suppose, that people may not realise, there was 2 guys on that team that went to the Olympic Games.
Yourself, Andy Ronan.
Yeah, it just shows you the amount of talent that the GAA have within it.
And help develop. That leads me to my next question, really, Billy, because a lot of coaches, I've often asked this, and I've often tried to argue the point, and maybe you can argue the point better for me, because a lot of coaches try to get players to specialise in one particular sport at too early age. And as a boxing coach, particularly, would you be an advocate of that, or would you be against it?
I was very fortunate to meet a world-renowned expert on it, on long-term athlete development, Estevan Bally, and actually presented with him one time in the conference centre in Dublin. But really, my talk was really about my career growing up and playing 4 sports. And by the way, they're all the cheap sports, with soccer, boxing, hurling, and Gaelic football. Those are my 4 sports, and that when I looked at his study, his case study on his was exactly what they'd done in the Soviet Union to produce all those elite athletes. And it's what is recommended for all athletes is to play a variety of sports till they come to, to make a decision at adult level. I was 18 when I made my choice to want to go to the Olympic Games. But I played all those sports up to it and continued to play. I started soccer, went a bit by the wayside, but I continued to play Gaelic games till I was 40.
Yeah. So, in other words, you don't totally agree with the concept.
No, absolutely not. I think it's crazy. I tell you, now, as I become a coach, I've seen the byproduct of guys that specialize early, and it will make a certain level. And if we're looking for elite and top class athletes, they weren't able to make the jump to the international level. They were able to make it to a national level, but couldn't make the jump to be world class. What
makes a world class athlete?
Oh, good question. I could write a book on that. No, that'll be could make some money on that one, Bill. There's quite a bit. I think there's a massive amount, and a lot of it revolves around the environment that they grow up in. And it's only when you can reflect on any top class athlete out there, reflect on the environment that they grew up in. So that's having those opportunities to play a variety of sports, having the support of your family that are going to help you and maybe drive you on in many ways. And also then what you have inside you, and that comes from your family too. I think, your genes, the type of person you are, having that never say die attitude, the continuous improvement mindset, willing to work, to achieve something, to become an Olympian or to become, the best that you could be at your sport. That, has an eternal drive that, if you're trying to coax somebody into doing this, it's very, very difficult to get and that for me, you can overcome many, many things if you have that will and desire and passion to become the best that you can be. That you can overcome lots of other obstacles talents and things that you may not have.
Okay, going back to our club game, our club careers, we call it. At an early age, I remember we did experience a lot of disappointment. We lost a lot of under 14 county finals, Premier, juvenile football and hurling, and I think you can explain to the people that's what prompted you to throw your hat in really full time at boxing. You had already won loads of schoolboy titles, but I
was actually so I was boxing since I was 7, and then you can fight in competitions and Irish titles at 11. So I was sort of unlucky. I kept losing on split decisions and got a bad eye. I remember the county in the Leinster final one year, my eye swallow, and eventually I made a breakthrough at 14. So at 14, me and you were playing under 15 soccer for Wexford. We were playing under 14 football for Wexford, and we were playing under 14 hurling for Wexford, and I was also Irish champion for the first time.
Yeah.
And thankfully, boxing and at the time was a winter sport. It was like September till March or April, and then we started going into the GAA season. So I was fortunate enough to be able to marry both of them. And then the next time we were playing inter-county was minor. So we were on the minor football team together, and I was captain of that minor football team. By the fact that the Sarsfields had won the minor championship that year, and I was wing back on the hurling team, but I had won my 4th Irish title 4 years in a row. And then I remember we were winning by 5 points with 6 minutes to go in Crow Park against more or less the same team that we had played in the under 14.
Yeah.
It was more or less the same 2 teams that came on together again. And I was playing wing back, and I cleared the ball, and the wing forward got his hurl to it, and I went down over the line. And sure, it should have been our line ball, but they got the line ball, crossed it in, their full forward turned on it and stuck in the back of the net, and they beat us by a point. And I just threw down the hurl that day, and I said, the hell with this, I don't want to rely on referees. I ended up being the same boat as was referees and judges, but umpires or 15 other fellas. I wanted to go to the Olympic Games, and I wasn't going to do it playing hurling or football. And I gave up playing for those few years, actually, which was probably a regret. I went back playing under 21. We went back playing under 21. I remember you approached me to go back playing because I got left off the team for the 84 Olympic Games. And we went back. We won under 21. We won the senior football. I got beaten in a replay in the senior hurling with the Harriers in that year that we came back. So, but as I said, I promised myself I'd never give it up again until my time was up, and I wanted to reach the milestone until I was 40. So I did that.
And also, of course, you captained North End to win the Bank of Ireland Cup in 1991.
Yeah, as well. Yeah,
remember
that was the C team. We were
Yeah.
called the C team.
Yeah.
Those fellas came back out of everywhere.
Yeah, it was a combination of a number of things, because I remember Paul Harrington and I were on the team, and the reason we were on it is we were at the Hunt Ball in New Ross on a Saturday night, and we were playing cup the next morning, and Seth and him arrived at the pitch in no condition to play, and rightly we were dropped and we were suspended for a week, and the following week was a cup match, and we were playing some lowly, no disrespect, but some second or third division team, and we were expected to win, so the lads knew what they were suspended for, and first team were beaten. So that freed us up for the third team. And then I remember Paddy Carney, Ger Carney, Jeremy Byrne. There was a lot of lads that had injuries came back, and it was a great occasion actually. We did really well to win a cup, a third team to win a cup. But I remember you were captain, and actually the day of the final, I think you were playing championship.
After. Yeah, I played championship after with the Harriers. Which we didn't go down too well, but I marked John Michael Porter actually in the final that day up in Hortown, wasn't it?
Yes, Hortown. Yeah, a great Ross Celtic team. Yeah, John Michael, now his son playing for Wexford. But heading into your boxing career, then when you finally went, I won't say full time, but full time effort while you were working. People don't realise that. At the time, Irish boxing was totally amateur. Totally amateur. I remember you were working in Jackman's and Pierce Engineering at the time over the years, and training every day, before work, after work, and trying to make a weight. I remember going looking and trying to run a house and work and train as an international, not just as an Irish champion, but as an international champion. And did you ever wonder how we managed to compete at international level because the Eastern Europeans and many other countries, probably the Americans too, were full-time athletes at the time?
Yeah, and I suppose from an early age, when I got selected to go to the European Under-19 Championships in Schwerin in East Germany back in 1982, I quickly realised that obviously all the Soviet states, all the East Germany, all those countries, all the Eastern Bloc were all full-time athletes. I was going out running in the morning, and really cold morning sometimes in the winter, like it wasn't great to get up in the morning. It could be out frost or whatever, on raining like anybody. But you're saying that's what drove me, because I just said to myself, if I'm going to compete with these guys, I got to train like them. And that's only just to compete with them. I wasn't even considering at the time winning, but just to compete with these guys, I had to get up in the morning, do that, go and do a day's work, come home and go to the gym and train again. And obviously said, not with the best nutritional advice, and try and make weight, and which is always a struggle for a lot of boxers. But yeah, it was a difficult time, but I suppose we didn't know any better. That was the system in Ireland. It wasn't great. We had some great talent. I was very fortunate to box on the team throughout the 80s and early 90s. That was probably one of the best teams that we've had. There's medals that prove that, European gold medals and Olympic gold medals and Olympic silver medals, and that guys have won down through the years from that team. And if we had had a full-time setup like we have now, I think we'd have been more successful.
Yeah, well, what I think proof of that is that in '92, the most famous gold medal of all time, Michael Croots, your good friend at the time, and still is, and Wayne McCulloch gold and silver medals, 92. And Michael was a full-time army officer. So he was full-time training,
Yeah.
which was a great advantage. And Wayne was a full-time boxer, full stop. Wayne had no interest in anything else. I remember only boxing. That was his life. And their full-time preparation helped them win the medals at the highest level. It probably was a moment that other people in boxing should have realized, look at, here's how we're going to have to do it in future. Instead of, 10 or 15 years later when your great friend Gary Keegan realized that this is the way forward.
Yeah, I think look at, and for amateur boxing, and it's called amateur boxing, which is probably needs to be taken out of it really, because I think, I've a push to try and change it, become a Olympic style boxing, because there's very few amateur countries in the world, and there haven't been for about 50 years. All the Soviet Union, the Cubans, the Americans, they were all full-time athletes preparing. And then in 2003, in Ireland, we set up the high performance system under Gary Keegan to again bring us back up to par with the world's best teams.
Those, before we finish about your own boxing career, just to explain to people, you won 7 All-Ireland senior finals. How many were you beaten in? Was it 4?
3.
3, sorry, yeah. We won't talk about those, but I do remember them. I was at them all. We used to have great fun. I remember organising a bus to go to the first one, and on Tuesday I had 12 people to go, and by Friday night we had 2 52-seater bus loads. So we were always one of the best supported in the stadium anyway. We had some great nights. But you also fought 57 internationals. You fought in Europeans, World Championships. In Australia, actually, you fought in World Championships. Am I right in saying that? Memory serves me right.
1991, yeah.
And you met your good buddy Mark Roach, Sparky, who was living out there.
Yeah, he was living out there. Spent the night in his house. He probably wants to forget about. But we had so we had a bit of intel. There was actually 2 lads that I went to school with. Brendan Tobin from Modlintown.
Yeah, I know Brendan.
We called him Jackdaw, and Sparky and Mark Roach.
You met them.
The two of them, I met both of them. They were living in Sydney at the time. And I think Mark lived there for 14 years, and Brendan is still out there. He's there a long, long time. So yeah.
Of all the countries, not really a sporting question, but of all the countries you've been to, which was the poorest and the most disadvantaged, and a place you said, God, I never want to come back here?
I think, suppose with boxing, we get the chance to see probably some of the worst places in the world. Maybe some of them are pretty tough. I think Azerbaijan, some places in that. A place called Kuba, which was really down away from the capital. We were there for a WSB match, but yeah, it was pretty damn poor.
I remember in your amateur, your own career, I remember you coming back from India one time.
Yeah.
And you were saying the contrast that you stayed in a 5-star hotel and tell people what was outside the door of the hotel.
Yeah, and I was there actually twice last year for the first time since 1990 when I had been there the first time. I was there for the World Cup, boxing the World Cup in the Bombay Cricket Ground. But just the poverty and the begging, constant begging, and we stayed in the Oberoi Hotel, which was immaculate and beautiful. But you walk outside the door and just kids with their hands chopped off and they're begging. It was a crying shame to see it. The horrendous. 1 million people sleep on the street in Bombay, which is now called Mumbai. But 1 million people sleep on the street. And that was the first thing that hit me when we arrived in the airport, and obviously the heat hit me, and then the stench, and then as we drove in the bus on the way into the hotel, just bodies everywhere, sleeping on the streets. Which it was a shame.
Make you realise how lucky we are, really.
Yeah, for sure. We don't appreciate what we got here.
Then we had another watershed moment in your life when you got the phone call from Gary Keegan, who the high performance role in general was a dream come true for you, I know. And you got the chance to, you always say to me, working at your hobby, imagine that. And I know there were many obstacles in your way, which we won't go into, but it must have been so satisfying to be doing that job.
Well, it was great. Look, I think around 2001, I went away with my first time as a coach, team manager with the team to go to Poland for a training camp and a couple of duels. You know, and I was really shocked, and that was like 2001. I finished in '92. I suppose I made to come back in '96. So, you know, I wasn't that long finished, and I was coaching in the club, and we were doing pretty well in the club, and I got selected to go on this, and I was absolutely thrilled. And I was working for myself at the time. I was a milkman, and so obviously I had to get somebody to work for me. I was gone for 10 days or whatever, and there was no finance for it. So anyway, I was thrilled, absolutely thrilled. I went out. These guys, I couldn't believe the attitude, the culture within the team. It completely changed from the team I was with, and they were misbehaving. They were out wanting to party. They were, you know, after the first fight, there was a couple of them didn't want to fight the second. I was livid. You know, it was like I went against everything that I stood for. You know, and fighting for your country, representing your country, giving everything that you had. So I wrote a stinker of a letter back to the IABA when I came back, which probably people didn't do at the time, didn't report anything. I just reported. I thought I was absolutely astounded at the state of where Irish boxing had gone. I don't know whether that probably was a catalyst and helped me in getting the job.
Indirectly.
But indirectly, I think Gary may have read it, but yeah, I was fortunate enough to be selected as the head coach in 2003. It was a dream come true, you know, to go to work, you know, and a couple of those guys that I ended up getting suspended from funding were on the team in 2003 when I got there.
Yeah.
And you can imagine how that tension was when I walked in the room as the new head coach. And one of them was Kenneth Egan.
Yeah. Who turned out to be Olympic silver medalist.
It turned out to be, without those days happening, I don't think that would have happened. And we ended up becoming great buddies and good colleagues.
Throughout the years you were in the high performance, what was your favorite moment?
Many of them. Where do you start? I think London's there's a special piece in my heart. I think because of the fact I think it was the best, most successful Irish team ever. I think we equaled Sydney. 1956 with a gold, a silver, 2 bronze medals, all coming to boxing, which was phenomenal. I think that was sort of all of it, all the years of hard work coming together. Beijing was, you know, also outstanding. We just were very unlucky with Kenny not to clinch that gold medal. That would have really put the icing on the cake. You know, we had 6 boxers and 3 of them in medals. We had 7 in London, and we won 4 medals. You know, so the strike rate was amazing, and the quality of the team. You know, to sit there and watch. I think the stadium are up to, and Katie Taylor winning that gold medal was something that I'd been dreaming of for a long time as a coach.
And it's one of those moments that in Irish sport where you always remember where you were when Katie won the gold medal. You know, we went over to see you, and I remember it was a special Olympics though. You know, special as in atmosphere, the crowds, the amount of support for Irish people, and the expectation, which had added pressures for yourselves.
Yeah, you know, and we dealt with that. We obviously realised that was going to happen, and we got out of the country a month before the games to make sure that we were away from all that hype.
There's one story I'd like you to tell people, and it's about people don't realise that you went to Templemore to reenact moments that might occur further down the line, and one of them actually did happen in London. Was John Joe Joyce, was it?
Nevin.
Sorry, John Joe Nevin. John Joe Nevin. If you just tell people what happened.
Well, I can tell you the story about John Joe Joyce. John Joe Nevin actually. At the games, which is it's hard to believe, but so we're at the games. All right, John Joe's in the final. He gave, you know, and all the performances I've seen for Irish boxers. Michael Collins winning the world title in his fight when he got off the ground. John Joe Nevins at the time was the best performance I've ever seen from an Irish athlete.
In the semi-final.
in the semi-final, he beat the Cuban world champion. He gave an exhibition. He just completely destroyed him. And this was on a Friday night, right? On a Saturday afternoon, we're fighting the Olympic final. Haven't had your best performance ever, right?
And beating the favourite.
And beating the favourite, right? And we're all he's in the final, and he's fighting Luke Campbell from Great Britain, who in June of that year, we had beaten him. We had beaten him twice, but we beat him in June of that year in the European Union finals and had dropped him. And, you know, so again, as a coach, you're trying to think, look, you know, did I say the right things? No, John Joe goes in, didn't perform, right? He went over on his ankle in the first 30 seconds and was limping a little bit and just didn't get into the fight and wasn't the same guy, right? And I'm back in Wexford, driving around my car, beating the hell out of myself, saying, what did I do? Did I say the wrong thing? Did I under-motivate him, saying to him, like, we got this fella, we know. We're after beating him twice, you know, we know what to do, You know, should have had them more cautious. And the team got back together a month later to check in on everybody, make sure everybody was after coming or landing safely from the games. And I met John and he says, did I ever tell you what happened at the Olympic Games, the morning of the Olympic Games final? I says, no. He said, my mother rang me up. His mother was over there, and father rang me up and she said, John Joe, I had a dream last night. She said, you only won the silver medal. I said, oh my God, you're trying to cover every eventuality as a coach, and how do you cover that? And what happened? You won the silver medal.
Yeah.
I don't mind her having the dream, but she bloody told him the morning of the Olympic final.
Billy, I know you set high standards for your boxers and for yourself. And I remember when you came back from both Beijing and London, and the whole nation wanted a piece of you to celebrate the success. And what always amazed me was when I spoke to you, you were so disappointed. You were just so disappointed about what you left behind. And I wasn't surprised because I know you, but many people will be by that. And can you explain the reasoning behind that?
I think it was many of it goes back to yourself and maybe your own time as well. You know, you had opportunities, and yeah, as you get older, you realize that these opportunities won't happen again. You know, it happens once in your lifetime, maybe. You know, so I've had a few of those, and I hated having regrets, which I had some from my own career, and I hated. And a lot of the time with these athletes, I'm trying to help them fulfill their dreams, and that they don't have the regrets that I've had. So that's why, you know, that Olympic Games and that moment in time, as Whitney Houston once sang, that one moment in time only comes
She's
one.
Better singer than you, by the way.
Yes, for sure. But you know, and that's why I would be unhappy for the people involved that they've left an opportunity behind them that maybe ain't going to happen again.
Yeah. The trials and tribulations of the amateur boxing in Ireland have been well documented, and we won't go into them. But it must be some endorsement of your skills as a coach. The biggest sporting nation in the world came knocking on your door. How did you feel? I know you didn't want to go, and I can swear on a stack of Bibles, I know for a fact you didn't want to go, because we had many discussions about it, and I couldn't believe how you couldn't jump at the chance. It took 10 months. I was in the car with you one night in Dublin when Mike Martino from America was ringing you saying, Billy, are you coming or not? They were onto you for, this was about 8-9 months into it. But
yeah.
Why did you not jump at it? And you must have been honoured, of course.
Absolutely. Look, I think how it really happened was Finbar Kerwin, who was the head of the Summer Games over here now, who was from Cork, was working in the Sports Council, and he read an article I did in 10 years previous in the Echo, or the Cork Examiner, sorry. And a journalist asked me, if you were ever to go anywhere else, any other country, was there any place you'd go? And I just said, USA. I said, they're the sleeping giant of amateur boxing. An off the cuff remark. And he read that, and then when they went looking for a coach, he came to me. And obviously he had worked with me in Ireland with the team and be part of London. He was there for all that. Then Beijing. And then he approached me about going. But like, at the end of the day, I never really envisaged living outside of Ireland. And And I'm Irish 100%, and I didn't want to be training any other team. I wanted, there's no greater joy than having success with your own people. So I was quite happy, and we had a really good squad, and we were going to hold on to that team heading to Rio. We had come up with a slogan, and we had come up with a vision of where we wanted to go. We finished 12th in Beijing in the medal table. We finished 5th in London, and the drive with the team was to go 5-1, to go from 5-1 in Rio. So obviously I was a big driver behind that and the force behind that. So I never really wanted to go, and obviously I got to the stage where I had no other choice and to accept where I was going. And you know, now that I've made it, almost 5 years ago.
5 years, hard to believe.
Yeah, it's probably been one of the best things
Personally,
professionally, I've ever done, to deal with obviously different cultures and a broad group of people from all over the United States. One of them is from Colorado Springs. The rest fly in from everywhere, probably nearly flying in as far as I am, some of them. So it's been really interesting, especially language difficulties in understanding of the English language, and my accent hasn't really helped, and I haven't really changed it a whole lot since I got here. So they're still struggling a bit with that.
Yeah, you've answered my next question anyway, was have you any regrets? So I think the answer to that is a resounding no anyway.
No, look, my heart and soul is in Irish boxing. You know, as you started in the club around the same time, actually. You started to know Billy Dodd box as well, right? But at 7 years of age, we started in the boxing club, right? And so I've been boxing since, till I was in my 30s, and then in Ireland, for Ireland, captained the team, went to the Olympic Games, all of that. And so it's been unusual, but it's been good. It's been really, really good, and it's definitely helped me educate myself and develop better, so I can adapt to different people with different styles and different communications.
Will you stay if offered another contract?
Well, I have been. So
will you stay?
We're in the process of going through that. Obviously, this COVID time is not a good time to be. Before the COVID, we're ready to sign a new 4-year contract, but with this new COVID, it's not a good time to be talking about contracts when people are losing their jobs.
On the COVID front, how has the lockdown affected your chances of Olympic medals?
I'm a positive guy, so I've come from a positive angle where we have a very young team, and 5 of the team that got elected to be our Olympic qualifying team is their first year in international boxing. So it gives us another year to get them some international experience, and obviously to build their physicality and their technique. And so I'm positive in the fact that it'll help us be better in a year's time.
Good. Who were the biggest influences on your career as a coach? Not as a boxer, as a coach.
Yeah, as a coach, I think so many ways. Obviously, people coaching you as a boxer, your coach obviously has an influence on you as a coach as well, because you're inclined to learn from what they did in their time, And so Eddie Byrne was a big influence. Yeah. I mean, I was fortunate. I worked with Tom Hayes for a number of years as well, who was a good influence. I think my dad, obviously, who wasn't my boxing coach, but was always there as a mentor. And I think Nicholas Cruz, who came to Ireland in 1988, prior to the Olympic Games, and was still living in Ireland, and spent 5 years as captain of the team under Nicholas, who had a big influence on me as well. And Austin Crute was a great guy, Michael's father, and they became my Dublin parents. His mother became my Dublin mammy. I used to spend weekends up there. We used to be sparring partners, and then Michael would come down here, spend weekends. We too often socialise with us. When we're out of training, by the way.
Yeah.
But so those people had quite an impact
Going back to GAA for a minute, Billy. What is your standout moment in GAA? What your standout GAA memory?
I have a few, I suppose. I think obviously that Leinster final on the 14th that sticks in my head, man. Really, it was one of the best days. Winning the county championship, and I was fortunate enough to be a sub on the Harriers team in '81 when I was minor county minor. But the Sarsfields in 1984 in centenary year, which I cherish. Unfortunately, my centenary year, my house got burgled. One night I was up in the stadium and
I was with you that night in the stadium. We got the phone call.
Yeah. My centenary All Ireland and my Leinster under 14 medal and the Harriers medal as well all went missing. Yeah. So, but yeah, that would stand out.
And of course, seeing some of our friends win in '96 was something special.
Yeah.
You know your man from Buffers Alley.
That Dempsey fella.
Yeah.
And that's you talk about one of the greatest pleasures I ever got. I played in a league final in the late 80s. I'd say it was probably 89 maybe 80. Anyway, and we played Buffers Alley in Belfield. And the ball dropped down. I was marking Tom Dempsey, the famous Tom Dempsey. And the ball dropped down between his legs, and I pulled as hard as I could. And I hit him on the shin. And 30 years later, he's still squealing.
There was only revenge because he split my lip when we were playing a juvenile semi-final one day. So we waited a long time to get revenge for that one.
I got him back, but yeah, he's still talking about it 30 years later.
Tell me this one. If you hadn't been a fitter, a milkman, and a world-renowned boxing coach, besides being in jail, what would you be doing?
Yeah, look, obviously I'd have been involved heavily in the GAA. It's a great organisation. It's been a big part of my life. You know, I've got my lifetime friends, including yourself, have come from the GAA, and it always gives you someone to go back on. You know, a couple of the greatest guys I played with come from there. Unfortunately, we buried a couple of them last year.
Yeah, and poor Jim Rice just a month ago, and John Harrington.
John Harrington, two of the greatest guys you could meet, and
on and off the field.
Yeah, and two of the greatest exponents of Gaelic games and football.
Yeah, that's true. In their positions, there was nobody better.
Yeah, for sure, and always gave you 100% every day, and that's what they did in life, you know. And I think that shows what the sport of GAA does. A 71-year-old man.
Yeah, it builds relationships and friendships for life.
Yeah,
and
the difference between all of us.
Sport does.
We were 18 coming onto that senior team, and Royce was like in his 30s, you know, and he was looking after us like we're like his kids, and he became our friend, he became our buddy, and you know, so that's what a 71-year-old man hanging out with 56, you know what I mean? Like we were hanging out together with a generation of a gap. We became the best of friends, and that only happened through playing the sports that we played together.
That's true, yeah. On a different note, if there was a movie about your career, about your life tomorrow, who would you like to play the lead role?
Zach Welsh. He's the best liar in Wexford. Yes, I would like to play my role. I tell you, I watched the film the other night. I should say a movie now. I'm in America.
Yeah, you're Yankee.
It's called The Gentleman, and Colin Farrell is in it. I tell you, he was brilliant. And he was a boxing coach in it. But it's Guy Ritchie. Guy Ritchie was the director of it. So if you get a chance to watch that, you should watch it.
So you're saying you'd like Colin Farrell to?
Colin Farrell, yeah. John
He's the image. He is the image of you. He is. I know you've been asked to write a book several times by different journalists, and I know your answer, but if you'd like to tell people what the answer is.
And I have to wait till Kathleen is dead. Wait till my mother. If I'm going to tell the truth, I have to wait till my mother is dead.
I think you said to me there are too many people that have to be dead, including yourself.
Yeah, there's too many people that have to be gone. Yeah.
What?
Maybe someday, I've thought about it a lot lately. Obviously, we had time in the COVID to think about a lot of stuff. But yeah, I've thought a lot of it lately. And again, somebody came in to ask about it. But yeah, the type of book is what's problematic for me. Is what type? Is it a life story? Who wants to know? Yeah, and is it a high performance book? So maybe someday soon.
You must have too much money. That's the problem.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to a 17-year-old Billy Walsh?
Wow, that's a great question. I think first of all, enjoy life.
I think you've done that, Billy.
I think I've done it. Yeah, I usually take one day at a time, even though I'm an expert at planning supposedly. But
everything except your own.
Yeah, except my own life. But yeah, enjoy it. Yeah, enjoy. Play as much sport as you can. Meet as many people as you can. Be humble. Be nice to people. It doesn't cost anything to be nice, and people will always remember you being a nice person. And live life to the full. Enjoy it as much as you can.
So really, you're just telling you do the same as you've already done. That's in a nutshell. There's not too much you would change.
What I've done in my own life, I suppose. No, there's not a whole lot. I do enjoy every moment of every day, and even if we're in a lockdown or whatever it is, and I always find the funny side of it. So, yeah, it's a good outlook to have on life.
Yeah. I have a few quick fire.
I wake up in the morning, I'm ready to go, bouncing. I drive people. I know people that are not morning people. I drive them crazy. Because I'm chirpy, come on, let's go, let's boom, 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 I'm ready to go. And I just love every day, and I'm excited about what the day brings. And, I'm often dealing with lots of challenges, problems, but, that's part of life.
In a separate compartment. We're coming to the end of our time. I have a few quick fire questions for you. So I know it's going to be very difficult for you, but try and keep the answers a bit brief. So, first of all, your favorite food?
Oh, Chinese.
Sport other than boxing?
Hurling, Gaelic football.
Favorite singer?
Freddie Mercury.
Zach will be a bit disappointed you didn't pick Elvis, but I knew you would. Place in the world? Favorite place in the world?
Favorite place in the world? Colorado Springs.
Colorado Springs. What about Wexford?
Well, apart from Wexford.
Your favorite drink?
My favorite drink? A good one, a Guinness.
Right. Your favorite soccer team?
Manchester United.
I know you make me sick. Your favorite saying or motto?
My favorite quote I was asked about the other day, and it comes from Abraham Lincoln. Best way to predict the future is to create it.
Very, very appropriate. Your favorite time of year?
All year. I love all year, and particularly, obviously, I suppose summer. I love the sunshine. Yeah. I love long evenings.
Going back to boxing, your most difficult opponent?
Good question. There's a couple of them. Obviously, Michael Carruth, Olympic gold medalist, because of his cunningness and skills, his fast hands, and Kieran Joyce from Cork. He was a warhorse. Never gave up. He won the best. He has one of the best international records in Ireland's history. He was very. I don't remember him being beaten. I saw him being beaten twice at 2 Olympic Games, but at the quarterfinal stage for fighting for a medal. But outside of that, he won off internationals. He was never beaten. He used
to wear people down, just non-stop in their face.
His condition, his fitness, his toughness, his variety of punches. Oh my God, he was an animal.
The best hurler you played with and played against?
Wow, that's a hard one. It's a difficult one. I think at underage level, you recall this. John Codd was a legend. John Codd was like the best underage under 14 hurler in the country. He used to get the ball stolen up. And Ted Morrissey, like they were really good underage hurlers, you know. And obviously Story came on as a sub actually on under 14, didn't play minor. Ended up being one of the greats as well. You know, I was fortunate enough to play with the Harriers team. They had George O'Connor, you know, Heffo, you know, I had Liam Bennett, who was completely not being underrated, was outstanding hurler. Ned Boogie, you know, the O'Connor brothers, George's brothers, and all those. And Tony Welch, you know, Sack.
So in other words, you're afraid to say.
That was the best hurler I ever played with. You know, oh, I don't know. I'd imagine. I think it's playing with the Harriers. I didn't get an opportunity to play with Lee Chin. I think he would have been probably up there. With
you had Larry O.
I did play with Larry O, and I'd have to say he was probably the best. If he wasn't the best, he was the greatest.
Best footballer and hurler. Footballer.
Best footballer. I think. Look, there's many of them again. You know, in that team that we played with the Sarsfields, there was 4 or 5 of you guys who were playing inter-county. You know, down to Larry Roach, Ger Halligan, the 2 Harringtons. You know, we had different guys checking all there. Like we had some great Sack, who was an inter-county footballer at football before he became obviously known for his hurling. Yourself, you know, I think I have to say the most consistent and the most outstanding for me was John Harrington.
Yeah, I'd have to agree.
Every day he turned up and gave you everything.
Exactly. He left everything on the pitch. Never had a bad game.
And if anybody could give you more than 100%, he'd give you that as well. You know, he was like definitely one of the greatest.
The best boxer you've ever trained?
Wow, that's a good question. There's been a few of them. I'm very, very fortunate, you know, to I think one of the most, I suppose, enjoyable moments, I think, was I was in a place called Trabzon in Turkey, an Olympic qualifier in 2008, and Adam Nolan qualified for the Olympic Games.
I remember, yeah.
You know, so it was like, I remember his dad, Bumpy, sitting in the front row at the National Stadium every time I was fighting, cheering me on. And when
great supporter of yours, yeah. Everybody knows John from Wexford Park.
Mark O'Connor from Park. They were always there ringside, and then they bring their very son in for me to train him as a 8 or 9-year-old, and to see him then become
an Olympian.
Become an Olympian, the second person from Wexford after myself to be Wexford Town to become an Olympian, and the boxing the same weight division was a dream come true. That was fantastic. Look at Katie Taylor, without doubt, the greatest sports person that Wexford and Ireland has ever known. But I think the most talented guy, and this is probably going to annoy a few people, Michael Conlon is right up there with him. You know, determination, drive, passion, everything he had. But the most skillful, you know, to me, John Evan. He had it all. He just had a timing and a distance that he was just unbelievable, you know. And unfortunately, he never fulfilled his potential. But you know, saying that he's Olympic silver medalist, but, you know, he never really fulfilled his. He was European champion. He was best boxer of the European Championships. You know, that guy was gifted, absolutely gifted. Not saying the rest of them aren't, but he was gifted more than most.
Last question of the evening, Billy. The most memorable occasion for you in a sporting sense?
Yeah, I think it just goes to that day in 1988 when I stood on the middle of the track when they lit the flame for the Olympic Games.
Yeah.
Having been left off the team.
In 84 in Los Angeles.
In 84 for Los Angeles, which would have been my dream. To eventually to hang on 4 years in sport is a long time, and particularly in boxing, to hang on 4 years and to eventually make the team. I think Christine and the 3 kids know. I've told them all. It was the greatest day of my life.
I actually, it's appropriate because I know what it meant to you. And I remember the night in 84, you found out that you weren't being picked, and how you found out was disgraceful, because you were living in Corrish Park, and a photographer called up from the local press to take your photograph and to ask how you felt about not being on the team. And I thought that was probably the worst way anyone could find out anything. But having said that, 4 years later, the same photographer came up to take your photograph with all of us, your neighbours, cheering you and sharing the delight. And I think 1988 was a great moment, and I'm glad you picked that, because it was what you worked for all your life, and now the rest of your life is spent trying to get other people to reach their dreams.
And you remember the week after I came back? You probably don't remember this, but the week after we came back from Seoul, we were playing the league final up in Bunclody against the Starlights. And we won the league. Remember?
That's right. Yeah. I do remember that.
I played in the
So you're saying that's the second most important thing you remember?
That was the second one. We won the league.
Well, Billy,
help you get over the disappointment of the Olympics.
As always with our conversations, the time has flown for us. I don't know if it's flown for people watching and listening, but I certainly enjoyed it, and I want to thank you for taking the time out. And it's been a pleasure talking to you as always. And I think
thank you very much, and thank you to Wexford GAA for inviting me to come on. I had a couple of more stories that we had to tell, but maybe it's probably better that we didn't.
We'll save them for the book or the movie.
It might incriminate me in another place, but it's been great, and lock arm in the book.
Thanks, Billy.
To Billy, Dodd, and to Billy Walsh. Listen, that was fantastic. If we were in a room, usually when we have wellness last year, we started this kind of well-being and promoting well-being. If we were in a room, there'd be a standing ovation for both of you. Like the laughs in the background here, everyone I'm sure is laughing and just at all the different tales that you were sharing there. I have to say, listen, first of all, Billy Dodd, thanks a million for that, for doing it. This is maybe the sixth one we've done, and I suppose the idea was keep people entertained during the lockdown, and this definitely entertained people. But it was Dempsey actually who suggested this. I was saying I had reached out to Billy Walsh, and listen, as always, Billy straight away said he'd do it. But Dempsey came down and said, "You got to get Billy Dodd to do that." He said it would be a great worth watching for everybody. So he suggested it, and he did the Dorans last night. But Billy over in America. Listen, again, up in New York, we were doesn't seem that long ago in November where we had a Wexford GAA event up in New York, and Billy again turned up. It was a great weekend, and you mentioned humility there and being humble, and I think Billy Dodd nailed it as well. I actually remember '88 because you were working with my father actually at the time on the milk grounds. You must have brought home I was only a young fella. You must have brought home a bag of keyrings. And I had that keyring for I don't know how many years. I had that keyring from those Olympics. But you must have brought home a bag of them. But you probably didn't realize how you made everyone you gave it to, and you made the fact that you were an Olympian bringing home those and thinking of it. So everything you've done from Wexford, a Wexford ambassador, obviously from boxing, but also from Wexford GAA. Wexford GAA is really proud of you. And ultimately, when all this is over, hopefully. There'll be a crucial role here for you in Wexford GAA when you've won a couple of gold Olympics for USA and maybe Ireland again. Your expertise and your knowledge in the coaching arena needs to be used by people like us. So, Billy, listen, we wish you really well over there during the COVID first of all, and also ongoing for the Olympics. So, thanks to both of you. I suppose the other thing I would acknowledge is it's been a tough. I said this to both of you. It's been a tough year for. Anyone involved in the Sarsfields club in particular, two great guys, John Harrington and Jim Royce. We remember them especially. There's lots of I see from the login. There's lots of Sarsfields logged in. I said my own father, even though my club is volunteer. My father won a couple of county medals with Sarsfields. So
yep.
He wasn't going to win with the Bulls anyway, was he?
Now I'm going to put you on mute, Billy. So listen, guys, thanks a million. Really enjoyed that. I'm sure everyone did. And take care of yourselves, and as I said, Billy, we'll be watching out, and we'll keep in touch with you certainly from this side of the water.
Thanks, lads.
Thanks.
Take
Thanks,
care.
me all.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.